everything is broken. And nothing's going right.
Hello and welcome to Basement Fodder, the only show you're currently listening to. I hope that would be weird and that would be weird and hard to concentrate if you're listening to multiple shows at once.
Simulcasting, multiple shows.
Multitasking. This side of my headset's listening to Basement Fodder, and this side's listening to Dave's Nerd Compendium.
That would be so weird to
That would be hella strange. I don't know about that one.
I could probably actually do one where people are talking and then music listening on the side.
Maybe
if the music is lower than the people talking.
I could play video games and listen to shows.
Yeah.
At the same time, but I just keep the volume real low.
That's what I'm saying. Music lower than people talking.
Yeah,
I could do it
as long as there's some difference there.
Yeah.
They're at the exact same decibel level, and my head would explode.
Yeah, normal.
I'm gonna have a bad enough fucking headache today as it is.
Yeah.
Hopefully, this pressed peach cider will help knock some of the edge off of it. But I'm Todd.
I'm Dave.
And that's the cricket. I know you guys are going to be hearing many run-ins tonight.
That's Jiminy over there.
From Jiminy, the evil cricket of fucking doom that lives in the basement right now. Mm-hmm. Yep, I hear you son of a bitch, and I will find you.
Two of the worst, laziest cats either. We brought both the cats down here to try and find it and kill it.
No, this is great. So, Ariel Beach and I were down here last night recording, right? She's sitting on my couch, and your couch is open. So the cricket literally comes out from under your couch and is sitting there. And it was after we were recording. It was before we were recording. And I, slipped my shoe off. I'm like, here, get it, And she's like, I want the broom. I want to get the broom instead. I'm like, no. Use the fucking shoe, okay? You're going to crush it. Don't swat at it. So here comes the cat. And Mike just sort of walks over or whatever, and she's whacking at it, and the cricket gets under the fucking couch, and she's like, "Here, get under the couch." And then so he just lays on his ass and starts staring at the underside of the couch. I'm like, what the fuck? When there's bugs outside, your dumbass gets by the window and freaks the fuck out. But there's one fucking 6 inches from you, and you won't do anything about it.
Won't do a goddamn thing.
It's like I was raised inside. I'm fat.
You're here, we're going to play this game. It's called You Don't Get No Food Until You Kill the Cricket.
Why are you not my assassin?
Jesus Christ. You have one fucking job. Kill cricket.
Speaking of things that died a horrible death this week, Supergirl is getting canceled. Dynamite drop-in, Monty.
Yeah, canceled after 5 seasons.
I'm not going to lie to you, I was absolutely shocked it's been that many seasons.
Because it really didn't feel.
It does not feel like it's been that many seasons.
Yeah, but we did call this. We said this was a possibility, especially with them doing the Superman show.
Oh god, yeah. The minute they said the Superman and Lois show was happening, I was like, bye.
Yeah. There are some things that I'm gonna miss from it,
Brainiac.
We've talked about that. Yeah. I want Brainiac to go to Legends.
That'd be badass.
I think Brainiac on Legends would make perfect sense because he does have some powers, but it's not anything.
It's not overpowered.
Him on that ship would be dynamite. And I'm going to miss the sister, Alex.
Yeah, I love Alex. She's
love
a really
Alex.
cool character.
Too great.
John.
But John is the one that I'm I want John to go to the Superman show. Mm-hmm. I think he would fit really well with not constantly, but periodically showing up in the show.
Yeah.
Because, especially now, because they've started doing it where the actual actor is wearing the costume and they're not CGing his head to look like the thing. So that way he can be costume. And I was like, you need to keep him.
I've said for a long time it should have just been makeup. It wouldn't have been that complicated to do that as a makeup. There's plenty of great makeup artists out there that really could have pulled that off.
Oh yeah, definitely.
But I don't know.
But the thing is, to sit there and do that much makeup is probably the thing, because it would have been a lot of time to have him sit in the chair and do the makeup and everything. So
yeah, I don't know. There's elements of it that I really liked. The biggest negative impact I say it has, though, and we talked about this the other day off the air, is they took a lot of Superman stories.
Yeah.
And they took a lot of Superman bad guys. And so it's going to be tougher for the Superman and Lois show to field, bad guys.
Yeah. I mean, you'll have Luther.
Yeah, obviously. And I gotta love John Cryer. He's fucking great.
And you still have some of the ones that were in play with her that can kind of, you know,
Mixoplick is always in play.
Mixoplick's always in play.
Or Mixius Pitalik, whatever. Toyman is still one they haven't really done anything with.
I mean, you can always bring back Metallo.
You can bring back Metallo easily.
Yeah, plenty of times.
You can even bring back the Cyborg Henshaw if you want to. Like,
yeah, that would actually be a really good one.
There's plenty of stuff that can be done.
Cadmus is still in play.
Cadmus is in play, yeah. And it sucks because, like, in the end of the first season of Supergirl, before they switched it to CW, they started talking about, like, Cadmus, and they brought in, you know, the actual Guardian, Jim, or whatever, like, but then they ended up turning Jimmy into Guardian, which was, again, I feel one of the dumbest decisions they made.
It was one of those ones that, like...
I still, to this day, cannot... fathom why they did that.
I feel like another thing was, I think, them letting Wynn go away and, like, kind of trying to replace him with Brainiac. Like, don't get me wrong, Brainiac's cool and all, but I think Wynn kind of had more heart as a character. So, like, them taking them out.
Then this last season's the heavy focus on the Dreamer character. It's an interesting enough character, and I like the actress, but
don't care.
It's just like they really hyper focused on it, and like to some extent I understand, like they were really proud of the fact that they had a trans actor and that they were pushing a trans character, and that's awesome, and I absolutely applaud that. But they fell into that trap where they introduce a new character and focus way too fucking heavily on them. And it never goes well when that happens. If this is not the main character of the show, you can't be giving it main character focus like that.
And like, especially because like with the stuff that was going on with Lena and man, your shit's blowing up there, sir.
Yeah, I gotta mute. Sorry, Pat.
Hey, tell Pat to shut the fuck up. It's fucking my show up, Pat.
Fucking things up, Pat. You and the damn cricket.
With Jiminy, you fuck with it.
The cricket sent you to fuck up my show.
But it is, because even when they focused on any of the other characters, it never felt like it detracted too much from Supergirl. But when they brought Dreamer in, it did, because at least when they brought in Mon-El, they kind of like worked him in hard with her, so it was like, okay, at least she was still the main thing. But Dreamer felt like they were just taking Dreamer off and doing their own thing, which, like, that's cool if you planned on moving them to a different show or, like, doing something. But it's like all this preparation.
If like, your ultimate plan was to end up doing, like, a Dreamer show or end up doing a Legion show or something like that and incorporating her into it, I have no problem with that.
But you said that your thought is that they might move Dreamer to...
I think that it's a possibility. She's got a good, kind of interesting power set. She's not incredibly overpowered, and I think she could fit in with that.
And she has a costume.
Good, she has a fucking costume, which God knows nobody on fucking Legends wants to wear a costume anymore. Here's the bitch about Legends. Legends ends up being my favorite because it's so much fun to watch.
It's easier to watch.
But it's becoming every season less of a superhero show.
Yeah,
more of just an adventure show.
Which, okay, granted, the original person, Rip Hunter, was in the comics more of an adventure character than he was like a superhero. But it was becoming less and less and less of a superhero thing. It feels more just like, I get it, they're supposed to be misfits in time and shit, but it's like you're playing more the misfit aspect up than anything, and it's like, I get it, cool. It is still the easier show to watch, because, man, Flash has become such a fucking downer lately.
That's where I've almost given up on Flash at this point. Like, I haven't even watched the last season. Like, the last season of everything was what led into the big, giant crossover and shit.
Yeah.
And I watched pretty much all of Arrow because I was really
I was surprised because I was like, how has it become that Flash is more depressing to watch than Arrow?
Yeah, I'm just kind of flabbergasted by that because Flash has just become too much of the CW trap. Like, too much focused on fucking, like, angst and fucking romance and shit. And I'm like, it's cool. It needs to be a part of it. But
not
you're
that
too
much.
fucking focused on it. And I swear to God, dude, no offense to the actress, because I do like her. I like Candice Patton a lot. But
I liked her better in like the first couple seasons.
Iris makes me want to fucking like ram her head into the wall until it explodes. Like,
and that's the thing. I liked Iris in the first, like, I'd say 2 to 3 seasons. The first 2 to 3 seasons, she was good. But then she started doing... The problem is they're making her Lana.
Yeah,
from Smallville.
Oh God, it's Smallville Lana, the worst Lana ever.
Yeah, she's becoming that. And that was like... I feel bad because, even Lana from that show, the actress, Kristen Crook, she's a good actress.
She is a good actress.
It was the
Except
writing.
for Street Fighter.
But it was the writing. They were writing it very shittily that way. And it's like, now that seems to be happening to Candace.
The big rumor that I saw pop up again recently is that they're talking about bringing Smallville back in animated form. They're talking about doing that season that they did in the comics as an animated series. And
that would be intense.
Tom Welling and Michael Rosenbaum have already said, like, I'm on board if you want to do it. And I read that. Like, it only went to, like, I think 14 issues or something
that
like
one was
that.
interesting because that one brought in Batman and the Green Lantern.
And Green Lantern, yeah.
Like, that
and
was a
the
very...
Batman costume was really cool and interesting. It was very, like, a street level kind of, and Batman looked interesting and cool. And the Robin that they used,
but his face was more completely covered.
Yeah, no, he used like a mesh sort of screening on the bottom of his face.
Yeah, so that way nobody could actually see if there was any markings or anything.
And like even just him in the Superman costume, they modded the Superman costume away from Brandon's costume into his own full realized costume, which looked really fucking cool.
Really good, yeah.
And they used a female Robin too.
And you still had Green Arrow.
Yeah.
And like everybody else. I would actually be really cool with seeing that too, because they also had John Jones in there. Like, it would be interesting.
Well, I tell you, like, the CW is like, a lot of the Arrowverse shows are kind of going to the wayside, and then that DC Universe stuff is starting to come over because they're phasing out the DC Universe channel.
The thing with that, though, is I don't even know if that's going to stick, because right now, a lot of that stuff's going to HBO Max, and HBO Max is actually looking to, like, increase the DC stuff, especially with that resurgence of, like, the Justice League, the Snyder Cut. They're supposed to be doing new shoots, like, with new people, like Ben and, like, everybody was super excited about that.
And they're talking about Ben coming back for a couple of movies now.
Yeah, now he's talked about that. Now there's also talk that Henry might be coming back for, like, I think, like, 3 movies and stuff. Like, one was the Shazam sequel, and, like, a couple are Superman one.
Oh, man, Superman to the Shazam sequel. God, that'll be interesting.
Yeah. I guess in the second, they were talking about if they ever did a second Man of Steel, or in, like, the thing that Dwayne wants to see Black Adam and Superman go at it and stuff.
I would love to see Black Adam and Superman.
I'd love to see that. Those two, I think, would be great. And then, you know, have, like, Shazam show up, too. Like, that would be interesting. But,
you one conversation, another one pops up.
Yeah, I know. The thing about that, though, is, like, that HBO Max thing is actually becoming quite popular, because there's that Raised by Wolves show that fucking...
I've heard good things about
a lot of people. It's Travis Fimmel, and it's very, like, it's Ridley Scott stuff. It's some very interesting sci-fi. There's the country... you know which one I'm talking about, the Cthulhu.
Oh, Lovecraft Country, yeah.
It's on there.
I've heard nothing but amazing things about that.
Yeah, that HBO thing, HBO
Doom
Max.
Patrol is going strong on there.
Titans got renewed,
yeah.
All that stuff. Actually, the kid who played Jason Todd said he likes his Red Hood costume for the season 3. So, a lot of that stuff is good. I could see them taking... apparently, there's also talks that... J.J. Abrams might be making a Zatanna and a Constantine show for HBO Max.
Oh, that's interesting.
Not like them together, but like 2 separate shows. Because there's still that talk about the Justice League Dark movie as well.
I just don't see that one getting made, man.
The Justice League Dark
one? I want
one?
it real bad.
They're pushing for it.
I was really interested when they first talked about it and Del Toro was going to do it, because that would have been fucking amazing. Because if anybody could be trusted with something like that, it's him.
Yeah. Well, no, from what I understand, he's still on board to, like, consult and do some stuff with it, but he's not. I think it's, like, I don't know if it's Jeff or some of the other guys, but, like, that one is still very much in the works as far as being done.
The only dark cloud over all of that stuff is the Cyborg stuff?
Right now, the Cyborg stuff is very much, in
Well, the actor that played Cyborg, like, he's really fighting this shit hard, and, like, he's got Jason Momoa backing him, too.
Yeah.
And unfortunately, none of the rest of the cast has really openly come out and backed it, but, like, Jason Momoa doesn't give a fuck. He's that guy. He's got work. He doesn't think that he's going to be damaged by it anyway, so he's got enough balls to come out and be like, no, it shouldn't have been this way.
I mean, and that's fine.
And as much as I don't give a fuck about Cyborg as a character, what they did with it, they just pissed all over it.
Yeah.
And it's like, man, it sucks. Like, and the treatment that he received behind the scenes, if it's true, is pretty fucked up, man.
It is. But this is something we talk about. That's the problem, because, like, unfortunately, if you don't connect Cyborg to, like, the Apocalyptic thing, it's like, what really does...
Honestly, I think Doom Patrol really uses Cyborg in a much more interesting
the Doom Patrol Cyborg
way.
is probably the most true to, like, the Teen Titans form Cyborg. That's the best one. This feeling that you need to mix him with, like, the Apocalyptic tech stuff, it's just trying to shoehorn him into somewhere where he just doesn't really fit.
No, and I said it a million times, we've had this fucking Cyborg conversation because it's the bane of my existence. It doesn't matter what the fuck you do with Cyborg, no one cares.
Yeah.
And the thing of it is like, they tied it in, and they made him a focal point of the fucking shit with Apocalypse, and made him Apocalypse Tech. He's basically like a living mother box.
Yeah.
And still no one cares.
No.
Because Cyborg just is not a great character.
Well, I think the thing is like, to be honest, like, he doesn't work in that setting. Like, I feel like he is his best when he is a Titan. Like, he fits because, one, he is still a kid.
Yeah.
And, like, he fits with all the rest of them. Their mentality, their type of, like, how they fight crime, all that stuff. He's very much there. But, like, then you want to try and, like, usher him into, like, the big leagues and stuff. And it's like, the problem is, when you put him in, like, with the Justice League, he basically becomes like Oracle, their version of Oracle. He's like, okay, well, I'll just sit here and do it. And I was like, the thing is, that's what Martian Manhunter did on the Justice League cartoon. He was like, I'll be fighting, or sometimes I'm in the Watchtower. And I was like, if that was the case, I'd have just brought John in, because he's so much a better character as far as for a Justice League level thing.
And the thing is, like, I understand that they want to push to have people of color involved in there. It is a white guy show.
John's alter ego, though,
is generally an African American character, and then also you've got Steel, you've got fucking.
Who's also a techie guy.
Yeah, who's also and he fits that role much better. Like, he is kind of your backup Superman kind of character, but he also fills that technical role, and he's much more interesting as a fucking character.
And you got Black Lightning.
Black Lightning. Oh, God,
Black Lightning is by
so
far, like, between Black Lightning and John Stewart, those are the top two, like, beloved men of color, like, superheroes of color that's been in the Justice League.
Yeah. And, God, they're all just more interesting than Victor Stone. I'm sorry, like, ultimately, Victor Stone is a boring character. Okay, here's his entire fucking character. He's kind of a pissy teenager that is pissed at his dad or whatever, and he got fucked, and now he's a cyborg. And I'm sorry, like, cyborgs are interesting characters in some things, but, like, as a superhero, I don't fucking care. Like, I don't know. I don't get why they have this thing that they just must try to fist fuck Cyborg down my throat. I don't know. No, thank you.
Well, because, I mean, to be... the best way I can equate it for you and stuff like that is it's Black Widow and Marvel.
Yeah.
Like, they're just going to fist fuck Black Widow down your throat and shit like that. And you're like, okay, but in Marvel Comics, Black Widow was like, I wouldn't trust her. That's the thing. I could never trust Black Widow, just like I could never trust Cyborg, especially if you make him Apocalyptic tech. Because I'm like, at his core, he's made of something that is
connected to pure fucking evil.
Like, how do I not know Apocalypse is just not watching me right now through him? Which they have done in the comics. They've done in the animated shit where, like, that's literally him just spying on us through Cyborg. And I'm like, never would trust him.
No, don't care.
Yeah.
It's like you've got all these, like, the Justice League and the Avengers are so different, though. Like, they're the both big super teams of their thing, but, like, the Avengers, all of their characters have different parts to play.
Yeah.
But with the Justice League, it's like an all-star team.
Yeah.
Like the Avengers, it is a true more of a team book in the respect that they all sort of have a role.
Yeah.
Hulk is the powerhouse. Iron Man's the tech guy.
Yeah.
Cap is the leader. Like fucking Hawkeye is, your kind of street level guy.
Street level.
And even to an extent, Black Widow makes sense in the movies at least.
Yeah, because they were both like S.H.I.E.L.D. agents and stuff. And you have Thor, and Thor's like the mystic
right, he's
powerhouse.
the mystical and the powerhouse, and then you've also got Doctor Strange kind of at the outside
Vision.
of that. And they occasionally use Vision and Scarlet Witch, which are, more mystical power and technical power. But when it comes to the Justice League is like fucking the 1920s Yankees. Mm-hmm. It's like Babe Ruth and fucking Gehrig. Like they're all like, it's Superman, Batman. It's the biggest heroes of the universe.
Yeah.
And Cyborg.
And Cyborg, yeah. Because the thing is like, when you say Cyborg, do you think he's Justice League? No, you immediately haven't read, he's a Titan. I will always think of him as a Titan, never a Justice Leaguer.
It's like putting like Nightwing or Robin or something in Justice League. Yeah. Like you're just Batman's also run.
Yeah.
Like I hate to say it, I love Nightwing as a character.
I do
He
too.
works really great as a solo
He's
character.
a better Batman.
He's awesome as Titan, and fuck yeah, Dick is a better Batman than Bruce.
Yeah.
But if you put those guys in the league, they make no sense. It's like putting Speedy in there or something.
Yeah.
Like this guy
Wally
is
West is apparently Barry. It's like, well, that's cool, and that's why they work with like Titans or Young Justice or anything like that. Like, give them that team; they work great, because they're their versions of that on the show. But to try and put them in the league and stuff, it's like,
no, it's like you've got Superman, Batman, Wonder Woman, Aquaman. This is your Murderer's Row, and then you got Cyborg.
Yeah,
he's an afterthought.
Yeah,
and that sucks. It's like if it were Jon Stewart Green Lantern, it's fucking Green Lantern.
Yeah.
That's not an afterthought. He is a fucking intergalactic space cop.
Or if it's
fucking
John Jones, Martian Manhunter, like
again, and in like Steel, even Steel works as a better secondary character. It's like because he is obviously a secondary character.
Or even like I said,
or Black Lightning.
Is
power wise, he's right on par with the rest of those guys.
But
Cyborg is not in the same fucking league as Superman, Batman, Aquaman, and Wonder Woman. It's just he's not, and you can't force him to be there.
And the thing is, even though he is a cyborg and he's made of apocalyptic tech, he is not a tech guy. He was a football player. His dad was a tech guy and like a science. That's the thing. It's like I'm the tech guy, but I'm not a tech guy.
He's not really a tech guy.
You're not a tech guy because the thing is, between Barry and especially the way they set up the movies and stuff, Barry Barry and Batman take that role more so than him and stuff because they're actually like intelligent people who.
Barry's actually a scientist. Batman is a scientist himself and an amazing investigator and shit. Like,
and the tech that they come up with and stuff. It's like, I'm sorry, like I would just trade out fucking Cyborg for Lucius Fox. Like, like
even Green Arrow works better in that spot. He has no powers or whatever, but he works as like the soul of the team. Because Batman has no abilities, but Batman's basically a psychopath.
Yeah.
And so you need that kind of heart character. And for the most part, Flash kind of fills that role. But Green Arrow is a conscience.
Yeah, because he was the one that's like, hey, man, like, I worked on the streets. Like, I watched these people and stuff like that.
He fills that same role that Hawkeye would fill in the Avengers.
Yeah.
Like, it's like the Avengers, it'd be like taking the Avengers team that they have now and then suddenly being like, hey, like, who would really fit in here well? Fucking Nighthawk. From the fucking New Guardians or something. Like, something like that. Some weird random tertiary character.
Yeah.
That really has nothing to do with anything.
Rage. When they tried to make Rage an Avenger.
God. The also-run Avengers of the 90s. Fucking... And even that made a level of sense because those Avengers were not the Murderer's Row Avengers. Those were like... That was fucking...
no, but he didn't fit it because...
Black Knight's team.
He didn't really fit it because he was just... way aggressive.
Yeah,
like,
he was a 13-year-old kid who got juiced up on megaroids, basically.
Yeah.
Like, it's like Prime.
It's like one of those things where it's like, if you tried to put, like, Daredevil in the Avengers, it doesn't make sense because he's the one running around beating people to death. Or the Punisher. Like, we're going to add Punisher to the Avengers. It's like,
really?
He just kills everyone. No. It was sketchy enough when they had U.S. Agent. Like, because he was like, like, him and Bucky Cap were both kind of like...
The only Justice League situation that Cyborg would work in is a secondary team. Like the International team or the All-Stars team or whatever that they've done before.
Yeah.
Where it's like
the
a
B team.
second-tier guys.
Yeah.
Like, he just doesn't fit into that mega gods kind of fucking thought process that Justice League has always had.
Yeah.
And it's just, the more they try to force it down people's throats, the less that anyone cares.
Yeah.
You don't hear people out there rallying around Cyborg, like, oh yeah, we gotta get more Cyborg. Like, nobody fucking cares.
And the people are rallying for the
Ray
actor.
Fisher, yeah, absolutely.
But they don't care about the character, because they think the thing is like, the character just, especially in the movies, kind of really got lost.
It's a shitter, man. It's just a shitter, and it just brings shit down.
Yeah.
But, whatever.
Yeah.
It's like, team stuff, it can be very hard to do.
It can.
Especially because, like, the DC universe, as they've set it up, is not like the Marvel universe, the Marvel cinematic stuff. Marvel cinematic stuff, it's kind of all over the place, and there's a lot of fun in there and shit, and it's more lighthearted for the most part, except for the last Avengers movie. But, like, the DC stuff is harder. It's got a harder edge, and it's more, like, grandiose and, like, those sort of iconic characters.
Yeah.
And again, one of these things is not like the other. When you get that fucking row of heroes up there, and then Cyborg's just sort of like, hey, off in the fucking corner, because he doesn't count in that echelon.
Yeah, it's difficult, because
you'd be better off bringing in Icon. Like, Icon is one of the strongest black heroes in the DC universe. He's basically Superman.
And then you get his sidekick, too.
Right, who's badass.
Badass.
Icon is a character I beg them to fucking bring back out and do something with, because...
Oh, yeah, that would be awesome.
That whole Milestone universe really needs another shot.
Yeah.
It
well,
really,
I mean,
does.
Static Shock is still very, very popular and stuff. Everybody loves him. They actually just did their... what's his face? Just did the reunion for it, or the anniversary for it.
Yeah.
So
one thing that I have watched recently that I'm really jazzed to get into a little harder is the Stargirl show.
Yeah, and it is an ensemble, like, but it's still very much her and like her rebuilding. It has gone over actually really well. A lot of people like it.
I saw one show. I saw one episode.
Yeah, and it's going to the CW.
Yeah.
So
I saw one episode and I about lost my mind.
Yeah, because it's probably been the most
Holy
truest
hell,
to form. Like,
well, it's Jeff Johns' like
love letter
to the JSA. And that just in the first episode, like, if you haven't seen Stargirl, go out there and just watch the first episode.
Yeah.
Because I'm telling you, if you watch that first episode and you don't care, cool, walk away. But if you watch that episode and you're a comic fan and you love those kind of heroes and shit, man, it will really set you on fire.
Yeah.
Because they did everything right.
Oh, yeah.
Like, the funny stuff is in there, but, like...
But you also get the badass stuff, too.
You get Starman, you get Stripesy, you get fucking, like, in that very first scene of the first episode of Stargirl, you get an ultimate battle between the JSA and the fucking Injustice Society.
Yeah.
And, like, they, in one episode, did better with Solomon Grundy than any other version of Solomon Grundy I've seen on
other than
on
an
screen.
animated version.
Even that, it's almost better than some of those that I've seen. Like,
I don't know, that story of Grundy on the Justice League Unlimited is probably
one of the greatest stories.
One of the greatest.
I said almost.
Yeah.
Fucking, they did Grundy like Grundy should be done.
Yeah.
Like, my God, man.
Yeah.
But, like, yeah, I know, I can't wait to dive some more heavily into that. Like, I'm really going to watch the whole rest of the first season.
I think the Swamp Thing show needs to go to the HBO Max. Like, I kind of feel like, especially if they want to keep it how it was, I feel like it needs to go to HBO Max and not go to the CW. But...
And they're doing cool things with that. They brought Blue Devil in on that shit. Like,
it was awesome.
I love Blue Devil.
Yeah. Like,
my ultimate dream is a Shadow Pact show.
Oh, God.
Because,
awesome.
like, if you guys have never read Shadow Pact, it didn't go very long, unfortunately. It was, like, late 90s, early 2000s.
But they've been around, and they've appeared in a lot of other comics and stuff.
But, like, Ragman and Blue Devil and fucking... Nightmaster and, like, all these really cool mystical characters.
Detective Chip.
Yeah, if you like shit like The Strange Academy, or if you like shit like Justice League Dark and shit, like, it was the proto Justice League Dark.
Yeah, actually,
for sure.
Yeah.
And even, like, bringing in elements of, like, Frankenstein and Shade and shit, like, that's all super cool shit. Like, there's so much stuff to tap out there. Just give up on fucking Cyborg, man. Just do me a favor and just go with some shit that fucking anyone would actually give a fuck about.
Yeah.
But I said my piece on it. I'm not going to fucking cry on the fucking hill of I hate Cyborg.
Like, oh, God, yeah. Yeah.
But there's been some other news with the CW shows. There was a camera test with the new actress that's playing Batgirl.
In her costume.
Just showing the original costume, but they're saying that they're going to redo the costume.
Like her character in the show will redo the costume.
So that's cool. We'll see where that goes. I honestly think that Batgirl, unfortunately, was kind of DOA.
Yeah. I feel like the reason it got as excited as it was because of the actress was Ruby. I feel like the fact that she's leaving now, it's going to be kind of like...
Well, we talked about Supergirl, and it's like, it's one of those situations. It's like, when they did Supergirl, the caveat of that was basically like, we can't use Superman.
Yeah.
So let's do the Supergirl show. But the moment that you introduce the main guy into that shit, Supergirl kind of becomes the also run, unfortunately, because she really is just sort of the light version of Superman.
Yeah.
Not because she's female or whatever. That's nothing to do with it. It's just... It's the same character, but lighter, and there's less story.
It is. The problem always has been, especially, like, she's had some good stories in comics, but the problem is she has always kind of been, you know, like...
Superman's cousin, man.
Yeah, that's the thing, is especially, like, Robin and Nightwing have always suffered this thing. Nightwing himself did not really fully become his own character until they moved him out of Gotham to Bloodhaven and
absolutely.
stuff. I feel like I know what they were trying to do that with Supergirl by moving her to National City and having all that stuff, but the problem is like you then brought in all of Superman's bad guys and you didn't like have her stand up on her own feet with her own villains and stuff, because to be honest, even in the comics, she really didn't have a lot of her own bad guys. She ended up like, you know, dealing with a lot of her cousin's bad guys and shit, and it's like that's kind of the problem. And once, you know, they brought in Tyler Hoechlin to play Superman, even in just that, like, guest starring thing, he knocked it out of the park. That was the problem. Like, you showed us that not only could we get Superman, but you could get someone amazing to play it. And I was very skeptical because I had watched Teen Wolf, where he played a very different character.
Right.
But watching him play Superman, I was like, holy shit, he is like... I love Brandon, and Brandon did a good job of being like the Christopher Reeve.
Right.
But like Tyler Hoechlin is like, it has all the best aspects of the Christopher Reeve, the Dean Cain. Like he has this like wholesome and believability that you've seen in other ones that were iconic, and you're just like, oh, holy shit. And then you get to watch him in action kicking ass and shit like that, and you're like, and the writing for him, and you're like, I'm sorry, I like Supergirl and all that stuff, but it's like, but I can and you casted the perfect chick to play a Margot Kidder Lois Lane.
She's amazing. And here's the thing, like with the first 2 seasons of Supergirl, where they tangentially mentioned him and stuff, and like he wasn't really ever there, and only in kind of a shadow, and like for a couple of seconds, that was the best thing they ever could have done. But the second they made that decision to cross the line and bring in Superman as a recurring character, they signed their own death warrant on that shit, and it's unfortunate. It's unfortunate for Melissa Benoist, because I will say the biggest thing I can tell, the biggest positive thing about Supergirl is her.
Yeah,
she is phenomenal.
She gave Supergirl more than it ever had.
Yes. She is the best example of that character that's ever been put on film.
Oh, yeah. Like, she... Even at their lowest point and stuff, the way she did Supergirl was a lot more like the noble and regal Supergirl, as opposed to, like, the, like, teeny bopper Supergirl and stuff. She was always, like, just an amazing level for it, and it's like, that sucks, because you knew this, like from episode 1, you're like, she's amazing, but if he's ever on the show, you're fucked, because, and then they doubly killed it by getting a great actor to play it, so it's like, fuck, you know, and
they made smart decisions here and there, but like a lot of the decisions were weird. Like, I love the way that they did John Jones, but making him Henshaw was such a weird decision to me. Yeah, and it really kind of cock-blocked some stuff with like the using Cyborg Superman as a villain, because like I really kind of hate that it happened that way, because now that they're doing the Superman show, they could have used that character well.
But they started the universe. Mm-hmm. So there's no saying if that stuff ever actually happened. Because remember, after the Crisis thing, they did the things where they were like, history's been changed. There are certain things that are completely different that they're like, wait, what?
And to be fair, I haven't finished the Crisis stuff because I haven't finished all the other
there
seasons.
is a chance that could happen.
Yeah.
Which would be awesome. That Crisis event gave them the perfect chance to do all kinds of different things because things have been jump-started.
And to some extent, like, they were smart when they brought the Superman bad guys in. They did at first use lesser ones like Master Jailer and fucking like smaller kind of tertiary like Livewire and fucking Silver Banshee and shit, characters that could work well in the Supergirl context.
Yeah,
but
like I said,
then they
those
brought
two
Metallo in. It made no sense.
Yeah.
Like
Silver Banshee and I think Livewire actually worked better for Supergirl. But yeah, when they brought in Metallo and then Mercy and all those ones, it was like, whoa, now you're getting heavy into some fucking...
And it's like, I loved the original season. Like, the original concept that they had of, like, the Supermax prison and shit. Like, I actually really liked that. And then when they moved to CW, they just killed all of that shit.
I mean, man, we say it all the time. Max Lord was amazing.
Awesome. He was perfect. Like, you really didn't want to use Luthor, but... he's like Luthor, but he's actually worse in a lot of aspects because he's more psychotic and he's more bent on fucking like changing the world to his will. Luthor wants to rule the world, but Max wants to reshape the world.
And the thing is Max isn't blinded by a specific superhero, whereas Luthor is like so focused on Superman. Max was like, no. I'm not.
He's like Luthor without his fatal flaw, because Luthor's fatal flaw is his mad on for Superman. But Max is a pragmatic villain.
Yeah.
He doesn't have that single focus fucking hard on to kill one specific hero. No, he's trying to get the fucking long game.
Yeah.
And they did interesting stuff with him and Alex. And they did interesting stuff with like Callista Flockhart's Cat Grant. Like a lot of people are like really hoping that they can bring back Callista Flockhart for a couple of episodes in the last season, which I would love to see that because she was a really strong element of the first season.
Oh yeah. The thing is, it almost now, I hate to say it because, like, where they're at, it almost would, I don't know if it would have the same effect. Like, it would be cool to see her again, but it's so, like, they've diverged so hard from just even Catco. Jimmy's gone, so we don't know who's running Catco or any of this shit. Or I haven't because I stopped watching. Cause I didn't
the other
care.
big mistake I feel like Supergirl made was they fell in the Luthor trap. They had Lena as a character,
and they should have just kept it with Lena.
They should just left it the way it was because, like, her being friends with her and her not being evil and shit, made so much more fucking sense. Than turning her basically into Smallville Lex, because that's exactly what they did with that storyline. They turned her relationship with Kara into Clark and Lex's relationship from Smallville. Like, I became evil because you wouldn't trust me. No. Like, don't do that again. Like, it works in some respects, and it worked really well for Smallville because it was that sort of show. But just because someone is a Luthor does not make them genetically evil. She's not even a fucking actual, like, genetic Luthor.
Yeah.
It made
but
so much more
it's
sense.
like something about being attached to that name means you're going to be a villain and stuff.
And it sucks, too, because the actress that plays her is fucking great.
And I loved how she constantly was, like, trying to fight the stigma of her name.
Yes.
Like, and, you know.
They would have been much smarter if she just would have known.
Yeah.
If Kara would have been like, hey, you're my best friend, like, I trust you with this knowledge and shit, it would have completely avoided her becoming a bad guy.
It would have. But they made that same mistake where it was like, because your last name is Luthor, I can't trust you with it and stuff. And it's like, really? Because, like... And this is why, also, I find it to be utterly stupid, because with all of these shows, with Arrow, with Flash especially, with, like, all of these, like, main hero, but they have a team backing them thing.
Yeah.
People are constantly finding out that these people are a fucking hero.
Yeah.
Like, it seems like anytime they introduce a new character, the new character, like, finds out, like, magically, instantly, and they're like, oh, no, and stuff, like, you're this, and stuff. But then you're trying to tell me that Lena would never, like, wasn't going to find out.
Brilliant. And, like, her best friend would not be like, I've already figured this out.
Like, come on, you know?
And all of it, even when, like, it could have made sense, like, they brought in Clark. Okay, that's cool. Like, they made a mistake there, yes, but it could have made sense because he could have come in and been like, she's a Luthor, fuck that, can't trust her.
Yeah.
And it would have been an opportunity for Kara to be like, no, she's not Lex.
You. I'm not going to be you, like, between you and Lex.
Exactly.
Because, like, even the way they kind of half-assed talked about it, it seemed like in their version, they also still kind of had almost like a weird kind of, not quite the Smallville relationship, but it seemed like something kind of happened. But it's like, yeah, it would have made so much more sense for her not to go down that exact same road.
Right.
But they wanted to basically play out Superman through Supergirl. And
and this was a mistake. It was a mistake because they could have broken new ground.
Yeah.
They could have made her most powerful ally. And the actress was perfect that they cast. Like, they made such great decisions.
Especially because, like, she fought against her own mother, who was like, you know,
that was cool too. That was
stuff.
a great way of not bringing in Lex.
Yeah.
But bringing in an evil Luthor.
Yeah.
Like they did it with Lionel in Smallville. Lionel was the Lex of Smallville until Lex finally turned.
Yeah.
But with Smallville, it made sense.
Yeah.
It made sense because
you knew it was going towards this.
Jonathan was so fucking diametrically opposed to Luthor.
Yeah.
That like he instilled that shit in Clark's head, and Clark fought it as hard as he could. No, this is my best friend.
Yeah.
But then Lex made this mistake, and he made that mistake, and it started to creep in there. That shit that Jonathan told him started to creep in.
Jonathan and Lionel had this, like, hatred and shit like that, and then they just compounded it more because Lionel had a thing for, like,
a thing for Clark's mom
Clark's
and shit
mom
too
and stuff. Like, there was a lot of elements there, and that worked. In this one, though, there wasn't.
Yes, because
she was dating Jimmy for a while, like, you know,
and that
like,
was cool. Like that made more sense. Like, it's just like with Smallville, it worked because like it was the ultimate. Like, God, what are you doing? Like it hurt to watch these guys who loved each other, were best friends, and like from two different worlds, but overcame that. To watch Clark fuck up and not trust him when he could have. And it was heartbreaking. But with Supergirl, it was just like, well, she's a Luthor, they're going to turn her. And they did, and it's like, well, that was a heel turn that everyone in the world saw coming.
Yeah, because the thing is, they already played this out on Smallville. Like, we knew even if you started him out as a decent person, you were just going to do the thing. And it's like, cool. You know who else? You know, we knew this was going to happen. You did it with Tommy Merlin on fucking Arrow and shit like that. Like, he fucking flipped on Ollie and was like, angry at him and stuff, and then we know how that ended and shit. But it was like, you knew from Flash, you knew what was going to happen and stuff. It was like, wait, is it a character that has any relation to an evil character or anything like that? Yep, he's eventually going to flip and stuff. Like, I'm surprised they didn't do it with Wynn.
That's like, the bitch of it is they did it right with him.
Yeah,
they made him the son of fucking Toyman.
Yeah,
and he was like, no, I'm not my father. And she was like, okay, good. I instantly trust the fact that you're not a bad guy.
Yeah, and he gets to go off and still continue to be a good guy. But like Lena, a character who literally has like fought from day one on the show not to be her brother, her family and stuff, and to make, you know, constantly do this. No, it's cool. She's not even blood related to these people, but she's gonna suffer the same fucking, like, oh, you flip. And I'm like, this is just piss poor writing.
It is. It's like to bring, like, because we're wrestling fans, but to bring that into, it's the equivalent of like what they did on Smallville was like Rollins turning on the Shield.
Yeah.
It was like, oh, goddamn, there's that heartbreaking gut punch moment where you kind of saw that it might happen, but you were hoping it wouldn't.
Yeah.
But they fucked up a little bit too much. But then, like, what they did with fucking Lena is like the finger poke of doom.
Yeah.
When you watched Nash and Hogan get into the ring, you knew this was coming.
Yeah.
It was a stupid fucking decision.
Yeah.
And everyone knew it, and that's what it was.
Yeah.
That's what
they were like, I'd hoped you were going to give me something better, but you didn't.
But you didn't. You Vince Russo.
Like, yeah, Vince Russo.
Fucking, and I don't care. Like, and it sucks that it's coming to an end for that respect. I'm surprised it got as many fucking seasons as it did. And even this sixth season is supposed to be a short one.
The thing that makes no sense is, like, if this was the case, if this is what you knew what was going to happen, then, like, well, I hate to talk about it because you haven't seen the end of Crisis and stuff, but there's a lot of things that happen at the end of the Crisis thing that kind of make this kind of such a big, like, well, what the fuck kind of thing. Like, okay, like, why? But
poor decisions were made in the writing room when it came to this show, unfortunately. Yeah. And I think it only really lasted as long as it has because of the strength of the cast. Mm-hmm. And, like, people really wanted it to be there.
Yeah.
And, unfortunately, Batgirl is kind of, like, the opposite of that. Like, there was so much buzz coming into it, and the ratings initially were very good. Mm-hmm. But then, like, there's not really much to the show. Like, I've seen enough to say that, like, the concept of it was much more interesting than what they did.
Yeah.
And I no offense against Ruby Rose or whatever, I think she's a great actress, but I think that you could tell that she didn't want to be there.
I think ultimately the problem is this scenario that they're running with has already been done. Mm-hmm. DC's already done a show with this. It was Birds of Prey. Batman's gone.
Yeah.
Cool. You know, like, what happens now? Who takes up the mantle? Blah, 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 and stuff like that. And I'm like, okay, it made sense in the weird, like, other world that is Birds of Prey and stuff like that. The problem with this is it makes no sense because it's like, oh, Batman left. Cool. There should have been a Barbara Gordon, a Dick Grayson, a fucking, like, where are all these motherfuckers? Where's any of these? Tim Drake, Damian Wayne, where are any of these motherfuckers? You're telling me none of them existed? I call it fucking shenanigans. Yeah. Like, one of them had to have existed. He had a Robin. It's been fucking mentioned.
Yeah.
And then they're all gone. And then magically, Batwoman is the one that, like...
Yeah, where do they go? The fucking fifth dimension? Yeah. Like, what the hell?
Yeah,
where is every other fucking tertiary character?
One of them would have taken up the mantle and been like, no, Batman can't not be here. There has to be a Batman. Dick would have been grudgingly done it. You know? Like... I can't understand this one, and then they're like, well...
I honestly, and this hasn't been mentioned much, but I honestly think that the existence of the Titans show kind of fucked it, too, in some respects. Because Robin is there.
Dick Grayson and Jason Todd.
And Jason Todd are there, and they directly fucking address Batman.
And he's even in it.
Yes.
Like...
This is, like, this is a better version of what you could have done, unfortunately.
Yeah, like, that is ultimately the problem. Is like, the Arrowverse is cool. Mm-hmm. I like it. There were, I started from the very beginning and stuff, but the problem ultimately was when other shows got made that showed that you could do the actual, like, more true to form stuff.
Yeah,
it really did kind of fuck over the Arrowverse because it's like we liked Arrow, but the thing was, it was like half a Batman, half an Arrow show, like Green Arrow. They took a lot from that. Then we got a Supergirl show. That was cool, but we all wanted Superman. Like, Flash is the only one that was actually really true to his own, like, stories and stuff like that. And
the problem with Flash, unfortunately, in some respects, is they just blew their load too fucking early on it. Mm-hmm. Like, they used some of the most ultimate Flash villains and then eliminated them.
Yeah.
Like, this is a trap that... And I think the MCU is guilty of this, too. They kill all their goddamn bad guys.
Oh, yeah. Like that is ultimately, I think, one of the biggest problems with the MCU is, like, one, these guys only have so many bad guys, and then only so many of them are good bad guys, and you've blown through a majority of the good bad guys. Like, you blew Red Skull in one movie. You think you're a fucking moron for that.
That just pissed me off, Roy. Because, as much as I love the Cat movie, you fucked up.
Yeah.
Red Skull is his ultimate be-all, end-all villain. You can't kill him in the first fucking movie.
Yeah.
You cannot.
That's gone.
They've killed him off. They killed off fucking the elf bad guy in Thor. Like,
Malekith.
Yeah, they killed off Malekith. Loki, they kind of turned into a half-ass good guy. Like, all these bad guys, these be-all, end-alls, Ultron is eliminated in fucking one swoop. Like, Thanos is killed off. Like, you really just are blowing your goddamn wad, man. Like, yes, it's cool and it's big and epic and awesome and fun to watch.
Yeah.
But you gotta be you're building a universe.
And
you need
like
these
out of bad
anchors,
guys.
man.
Like, it's running out of bad guys.
The good guys
quick.
can't always win, and they were smart enough.
Well, bad guys can get away.
Yes, they can fucking get away. Like, you killed off Ronan. You fucking all these awesome bad guys that could make for much longer stories.
Yeah.
It's like if they do the Fantastic Four movie and get rid of Doom in the first movie. I will literally fucking lose my mind.
Oh, yeah. I'd have been like, I'm sorry. Doom would be the one out of all of them. All of them that would be like, I got away. Because he's too goddamn good at it.
And I'll give him more credit with Thanos because Thanos built over many movies.
Yeah.
Cool. But you still killed him.
Yeah.
You still killed him off.
Yeah.
And, like, killing the bad guy is the easiest way out of the story.
Well, you watched Black Panther, and I told you what my biggest gripe with that was. I'm like, I'm sorry.
And Killmonger.
Yeah, to build... I was like... And especially the way that Claw went out. I'm like, I'm sorry, you built him up in an Avengers movie to this, and then just click, boom, bye, bow.
Took a bullet in the head from fucking Killmonger, and I'm like, what?
You got a great actor, a great character actor to play this motherfucker, who should be a recurring bad guy.
No, and it made no sense. Literally, he could have gotten away.
Yeah.
The way that scene played out, he could have easily, like, Killmonger could have gotten distracted, whatever, like, Claw could have gotten away.
Or could have made some sort of weird, like, pseudo-clone type thing, or something to been like, haha, I killed him and let me in and shit, instead of actually like, boom, I blew his brains out and shit. The other thing, though, is then you turn one of his other big bad guys into, like, his new best friend.
Yeah.
And, like, Mad Ape and shit like that.
Yeah, fucking like, Baku, man.
Yeah,
like,
and I'm like, don't get me wrong, I love Baku, he's awesome and shit, but I'm like, but he was literally one of his biggest recurring villains, and you're like, nope, cool, we're buddies now. We had one little fight, I kicked your butt, now we're solid. You know, it's like, okay...
This is the problem with all of this shit. All of these bad guys that they kill off, like the DCU is guilty of it too. They kill off a villain in every fucking movie.
Well, it makes me worried because if they ever get the rights for Submariner and stuff like that, I'm like, well, he's hard because he goes from being a good guy to a bad guy and a good guy to a bad guy. And I'm like, what are you going to do? You're going to, like, he's a bad guy and either you kill him, or he's going to be a bad guy and then you make him a good guy and then he flips back to a bad guy and you kill him. Like, you know.
I don't know. I need to get out of the fucking mindset of the movies and the TV right now because, like, all of it just ends up pissing me off. So what we can do with that is just transition into what this is really about, comics.
Comics. It's all about the comics.
We'll talk about the return of our Elseworlds and What If series.
Oh, yeah.
Which has been fun so far, and we kind of took a break, a couple of shows from it, because we've gotten a lot more Elseworlds stuff than we have What Ifs, because, like, it's been easier to find Elseworld stories to deal with than it has What If stories, unfortunately.
Because the problem, as much as this was kind of the biggest problem with the What If series, is because there are a lot of, like, good stories and very, like, this is what it is, and then there are others where it's like they try to tie in things from, like, whatever's happening in the world events into the What Ifs.
Yeah.
And so it's like, you can find What Ifs, but they're like, what if... What the fuck is going on? I don't know what the fuck this is. Like, there are what ifs where they don't even tell you what the story is.
They're just like, what if X-Men?
Yeah. And
what if X-Men what?
What if they do what?
What if Wolverine accidentally clawed his nutsack?
Yeah, like, I don't know. He's jerking it and fucking shit.
Snicked his wiener.
Circumcision number 3.
Can you circumcise Wolverine is the question.
Well, he got circumcised before his powers, so yes, technically you can. Or somebody did.
Same problem with, like, I'll give credit to the X-Men movies, at least. Like, I don't like all those X-Men movies that they did, but they kept Magneto alive.
Yeah,
they kept the main bad guys alive.
The first one, I think, really the only villain that died was Toad.
Who fucking cares?
Sabretooth survived, Mystique survived, and Magneto survived, or at least their version of Sabretooth. Mm-hmm. You know, but yeah, like,
I don't know. It's just mistakes were made. But anyway, so this week for our dual series here, we have Green Lantern Annual number 3 from 1994, which is a fucking amazing story. This one is a really good example of Elseworlds and like what you can do with it. Then we have actually picked up a True Believers reprint of What If the Silver Surfer Possessed the Infinity Gauntlet.
Which is also a really good story.
Now, this is actually a story that you can kind of fucking play around with, like, because that's an interesting question. Like, because the Infinity Gauntlet is such that, like, it can only really be wielded by certain people. And yes, having it in the hands of Thanos is obviously a bad thing, but putting it on... we saw it in the Avengers movie with Hulk trying to do it and stuff. Like, only certain people are worthy of it. And, like, have the ability to fucking do
it. Code and stuff to be able
Thanos
to,
is a mad god, basically. Like,
he is a fucking child of an Eternal or some shit.
Right, you can't put it on Cap. You can't put it on Hulk. Like, you can't, like, these certain entities exist to wield this power.
The question is, do you think if Thor could have done it?
Maybe. But Thor has proven, though.
God, though.
But the thing with Thor, though, he's proven that he's not exactly... Like, he's not the more infallible sort of Thor that he is in the comics.
No.
The
but
MCU
then because
Thor,
he's a god, though, like, it's one
yes,
of those
maybe.
things.
And the thing is, like,
but
the
they
MCU...
always talk about, like, they call us gods, but really...
But they're not really gods in the MCU. That's the difference. Like, they are like, oh, well, art science is so advanced that people think of us as gods.
Yeah.
So,
and they just live for a very long time.
Okay, that's cool. And I understand why they did that in the MCU or whatever, but that Thor could never put that gauntlet on.
No.
But so with this story... Which we'll start with that one because it's really interesting. Yeah. This story, you take a character like Silver Surfer, who is the former Herald of Galactus, who is
an Eternal. Or not an Eternal, but he's one of the entities.
Yeah, he is this powerful entity, but then you show that ultimately, unfortunately, under that, he is a man.
Yeah.
And it is that absolute power corrupts absolutely. And they talk about it in the book. So basically... At the point where, like, Adam Warlock would have taken the gauntlet away, and Silver Surfer gets it, and he's like, "No, I'm not giving it up. I'm using this to make the world right again."
And the thing that is interesting is because everybody, at least honestly, respects Silver Surfer because he is such like a noble person and like a peaceful soul and shit, and he only did what he had to do to save people. Mm-hmm. The thing that's interesting about this story, though, is like. You can instantly see how the Gauntlet's power uses his own, I want to say self-righteous nobility against him.
Yes.
Because normally it's not self-righteous. He's just noble for the sake of being noble and stuff, but it makes it into a self-righteous thing because like he basically deems himself the only one worthy to wield this power to use it the way it needs to be used and stuff. Mm-hmm. And it's interesting to see how quickly, when it's put on, how the reaction is instant. Yes. Like, it's like putting kryptonite next to Superman. It's just instant, the reaction.
Because the thing is, like, ultimately, these characters like Adam Warlock and Thanos or whatever, they exist for a reason. Mm-hmm. They're above this, like, frailty of a mortal.
Yeah.
Like, Silver Surfer, he had the fucking strength of character and the balls and the amazing ability to stand up to fucking Galactus.
Yeah.
So if you'd think like this guy is the guy who could do this.
But the thing was, it was like he was willing to sacrifice himself to stand up to Galactus for his people and stuff. Right. But the thing is, this isn't a sacrifice. This is you basically have to bear this power. And that's the difference between like his noble sacrifice and say like Adam Warlock's ability to just be like, I have to saddle the mantle of this and shit like that. And it's like who they are at their core kind of says, would you be able to do it? Because like Norrin was able to basically, I'll give up this so you don't do this kind of thing. And that's great, but even doing what he did, he really wasn't necessarily like, I will saddle the responsibility and stuff. It was just like, can I divert something, like make a decision to divert something. But to saddle the power of the Infinity Gauntlet is not like diverting something, it's literally having the power to do anything with it.
Right, and like they show like the instant that he wears it, he's like, alright, we need to fix everything.
Yes.
He's like, all this shit that Thanos fucked up, it's all undone.
Yep.
And all these people all these heroes that he killed off, they're all
everyone's
back.
Brought back.
All the bad guys that he killed, they're all back.
But then he goes on and he starts doing they're like, no more war, no more hunger, no more poverty, no more like any of these things. And it's like, even goes so far as to fucking like reimagine death in a way that people aren't afraid of it anymore. Then he goes even further than that, and he's like, basically, we're going to kill true evil. And he goes to Mephisto's realm and was like, basically, like, we're going to smoke you. And Mephisto's like, that's all well and good, dude, but I am evil. Like, literally, you can't have good without
because at first
evil.
He's like, I'm going to take the evil from you, and he's like, I don't exist in any other form.
Yeah. He's like, this is who I am. And he's like, oh, well, I will change you. And he's like, no, I'm good.
No, I'm good.
And, like, turns his back. And you see the arrogance in, like, Norrin being like, oh, I'm a god. How dare you turn your back on me? And he's like, basically like, this is who I am, man. Like, what the fuck?
And the bitch of it is that, like, Thanos and Adam Warlock are fucked on this because, like, once he's got the gauntlet, they're both sitting there telling him, you can't do this.
Yeah.
Like, it's not that people don't believe in you. Like, you just literally can't. A man can't be God.
Yeah.
And it's just like, God can't be a man can't be God.
Yeah.
You are what you are at your core.
Yeah.
And at their core...
Even Thanos, like, once he starts doing stuff, Thanos is like, I never wanted to do this. Like, what the fuck are you doing, dude? Like, he's like, I'm going to do all these things. And he's like, what you're wanting to do is way worse than ever I wanted to do and shit. Like, the machinations of a man with too much power are way worse than a god with a design.
Right,
like,
and if fucking Thanos is telling you that you've gone too far...
Yeah.
Shit.
Yeah.
Like you really fucked the pooch.
Even Galactus, like, he basically sends all the, like, you know, the fucking cosmic entities away, except for Galactus, and he basically was like, I issue you no ill will, and Galactus is like, I'm telling you right now, as the person who created you...
You can't do this.
You can't bear this, and shit like that. And he's like, oh, it's so sad to see you jealous of my powers and stuff. And it's like, this is a cosmic entity who's telling you they know what these things are, and what it does to bear this.
Exactly.
And he's basically like, you were never a god. You were a man that was given power for a purpose. Like, literally, you have the power you have to fill a purpose.
Right.
Not to
this
just...
is not your purpose.
And, you can't, even with a partial, filing of the cosmic power, does not give you...
Right.
Even
fucking Doom is not arrogant enough to put that glove on.
Yeah. That's true.
And that's saying something.
And Doom has done some dumbass shit. Doom killed a fucking... Doom has stolen power from Odin and, like, done all other kinds of stuff. But even Doom was like, not putting on that gauntlet and stuff. Because it's just literally... you saw what happened in the comics when Doom tried to remake the world and shit. Like...
So it just keeps basically going, and, like, he keeps basically becoming more arrogant and more, into the godhood and fucking...
He basically starts talking about redesigning the entire universe to his divine, like, will and stuff.
Right, and this is like some parallax shit.
Yeah.
This is 0 hour.
Yeah.
Like, dude, that's evil. Like, you can't presume to know what the universe is supposed to be.
Yeah, and no, he even says it. He goes in and says no more, like, random occurrences. He's like, we're going to go in and everything's going to be divine, like, orderly and by a certain thing. And it's like, yeah, but random cosmic, like, what the fuck are you doing, man? Like,
good and evil exist in a perfect circle. You cannot have one without the other.
Yeah.
And once you take away Mephisto, once you take away all the bad things, what's the motivation of anyone to do anything? When everything is perfect... Yeah. Where's the motivation to do anything?
Because you're basically saying, I took away all evil, so what's there to make them good? I will make them good. And it's like, so basically you're making them a puppet, though, because you're not giving them, you're not giving the opportunity to choose good over evil, you're just making them. And I'm like, so they have no actual understanding of what it is. It's just what they're supposed to be doing.
So Adam Warlock and Thanos go to Doctor Strange, and they're like, this is fucked up. And Strange is like, yep, it sure is. We've got to fix it.
Yeah.
And, of course, Strange, being brilliant as he is, he brings in, Norrin's ultimate love.
Yeah.
He brings back Shalabal.
Yeah.
And brings her there, and, like, of course, Surfer is like, oh, you can rule with me together.
Gives her half the power.
Right, gives her half of his powers, and she immediately is like, this is wrong, I will fight you.
Yeah, like, you can't do this, like, because she's one of those, like, you're immortal. You're not a god. You're not immortal. You're not one of these that was created. Like, literally, you can't do this. And
she's like, I love the man that you were, but you're not that man now.
No.
And he's like, fuck you. Like, how dare you? I gave you half of my ability, and you're going to fucking fight me. And, like, tries to strike her down and shit, and then finally figures out, oh, fuck. I see this woman that I've loved for my whole life, like, and
you're about to smite her.
You're going to smite her, and it finally is enough to knock it, his senses in. And with basically the ultimate final act, he destroys the gauntlet.
Yeah.
And he creates a world that is just for him and her alone,
to just live
in a way, to live and be together.
Yeah.
And the gauntlet no longer exists, and the world is back where it should be. And it is a great morality sort of play.
It is that thing of, like, even as a good man, like, it basically combines two things of those two, phrases that we've heard, that absolute power corrupts absolutely, and then, you're good, like, what is it, you're a hero and you live long enough to see yourself become the villain. It's basically combine those two things, and that's what this story is. It's like he basically got to a point where absolute power corrupted him to the point that the hero became the villain.
Yep.
And it was only...
And it's ultimately the best example of a what-if kind of story, too. And Ron Mars is the writer on that. Of course, Ron Mars had a brilliant career as writer for Green Lantern and a bunch of other great books. And he really does a great job at crafting this story. And the pencils are done by Scott Clark, who does a great job with all these characters.
Yeah, really did a good one.
And evokes a lot of that, a Gauntlet Saga sort of artwork and stuff in there. So it's a really great book.
Yeah.
And, well, speaking of Ron Mars, there's the segue, because the other book that we chose, the Green Lantern book, of course, he spent a lot of his career doing Green Lantern.
Yep.
And this one is another great example of what Elseworlds does best.
Yeah.
And Elseworlds takes these, established characters and says, like, what if they lived in a completely different world under different circumstances?
Yeah, like... different things transpired, and what type of person would they be? Would they still be the same hero, or
are they still the hero?
Yeah.
Like, will they still be the hero of the story? And what this one does is it goes back to the time of World War II, and where Hitler is losing the war, and Himmler, Hitler has all this, all those machinations about like mysticism and supernatural stuff. So Himmler takes himself and his elite guard,
the SS,
and he makes a deal with a demon.
Yeah,
like, give me the power
to realize my dream.
To realize the dream of the Reich.
Yeah.
And so these other 12 are sacrificed, and a ring is made from their essence.
Which is funny, because in this one, it's created the yellow ring.
Yes.
That basically...
It's the SS that has the bolts. It's the SS ring.
Yeah.
But even that, unfortunately, corrupts, because the demon takes the form of a woman... and basically corrupts Himmler, and so one of his lieutenants kills him.
Takes with iron, because apparently
iron is iron is the weakness of the SS ring.
Yeah, and
so you flash forward into the future, and this is a world built by the Third Reich. This is a world where it's all Germany.
Yep.
And like
Germania,
fucking Hal Jordan and
Guy
Gardner are like top SS soldiers.
Yeah, he's a pilot and Guy's a commander and stuff, and they're basically being like recognized as like the top tier SS guys and shit.
And like fucking Himmler's agent or whatever that took the ring, like he is there watching this happen, and he's like, oh fuck, like it's gonna happen all over again. This demon bitch is gonna like corrupt these guys too. So he seeks out Hal by himself and is like, listen, this is who I am and this is what happened.
Which is funny too, because did you see what his name is?
It's like Abin Sur,
but instead of Abin Sur, it's Abin Strauss and stuff. And I'm like, that's funny.
So he gives Hal his dying thing,
the SS
ring, and like immediately Gardner shows up, because he had just basically taken down the Green Arrows.
Which is okay. So like in this story, they combine the Green Arrow, like Oliver's Green Arrow, and the Green Lantern Corps it together as like this resistance team. And
John Stewart is his top lieutenant.
Yeah, and Oliver was a Green Lantern because he's doing the oath, and he makes the Green Arrow, like that is the symbol and stuff. And he gets fucking shot in the head.
They call him like
Warlord.
Yeah, the hooded lanterns of the green.
Yeah,
and like they use the lantern's light as like a symbol, and they're having like a ceremony, and John is taking over as the head because Oliver's basically retiring, and Gardner shows up with his SS Blitzkrieg
and shoots him in the fucking head.
Yeah, just straight puts a bullet between Oliver's eyes and kills him.
Yeah,
and John Stewart escapes. And it turns out that he has been having an affair with Carol Ferris, who's like high up in the SS and stuff.
Yeah.
And this is so not okay in this world.
No, because they're
purity of race is the big thing.
They had basically pured out, like there was not a lot of, people of impurities around, I guess.
And once Abin Strauss gives Hal the ring, Guy immediately shows up and is like, awesome, that belongs to the SS. Like, we're going to be stronger. And Hal is like, no. Because, like, the story he's told is, like, they're being corrupted by the demon, and the Reich is being,
the dream
manipulated, basically.
Yeah.
So he becomes, like... It's weird because he becomes a good guy, but he is, like, a good guy with the thought of the purity of, like, blood in Germany and shit.
Yeah, it's weird because it's like when they gave Guy Gardner that yellow ring that wasn't actually a yellow ring, and they're like, oh, yeah, he's a good guy. And it's like... He's flying around with the yellow ring. This doesn't seem like a good guy. But then in the thing, they had captured some of the Green Lanterns, and the demon chick takes Guy and these captured people and makes a new ring based from the souls of the Green
Lanterns, yeah.
And gives Guy the Green Lantern ring.
Right.
And it's like...
So it's this ultimate showdown between evil and evil in some respect.
Like a good guy with an evil ring and then a bad guy with a good guy ring.
Right, and Hal catches Carol with Jon Stewart and is like, you fucked up, but he still loves her, like, so he doesn't kill them and shit, but they get captured by the Demon SS.
Okay, this is where I have to point this out, because this was funny. The weird bondage torture gear. Somebody's got some weird kinks. I'm just saying.
This is some kinky shit in here, yeah.
Because when they capture Carol and John...
They have them strapped to these big, like, Nazi symbols with spikes, and it's
like
all
the big... It's very, like, weird, but they're all, like, some bondage crosses, and then, like... John is wearing some bondage strap, like He-Man, like, and they're wearing the masks, like, like no vision.
It's very straight out of like a
BDSM film,
BDSM,
like very hardcore
man.
bondage BDSM shit. And I'm like, I swear it looked like for a second that Carol had a ball gag in her mouth.
I'm serious.
I was like, what
is happening here?
Like, what
shit's getting weird and kinky.
Guy is into some weird shit. Whoever wrote this is also into some weird shit. Into some weird shit.
But it just becomes this showdown between, like, and Hal is basically fighting the spirit inside of the SS ring because it's saying, like, go, be with the demons. Like, this is what we're meant for.
It's basically calling to its master kind of shit.
And Hal is, like, fighting it because, like, even in this weird situation where the world is completely different, Hal, at his core, is still a good guy. Is still, like, has the strength of will.
Yeah.
And they have this badass knockdown, drag-out fucking lantern battle between Hal and Guy, and Hal kicks Guy's ass.
Yeah.
And just hands his ass to him, and the demon reveals itself and shit, and is like, nope, fuck this shit's over with, like, I don't fucking care.
Like, I created this shit.
This shit ain't gonna fly anymore, like, I'm tired of hiding, we're gonna take that shit back. Yeah. And John and Carol, Hal frees them and shit, and John uses the bow to, like, kill the demon, basically.
Because the tip of the arrow is made from iron.
Exactly. So he kills the demon, and Hal uses his strength of will, basically as a dying act, because Guy is killing Hal.
Because he takes the iron arrow and just
shanks his ass
right through the fucking thing. And
fucking Hal...
John takes the ring.
Yeah, Hal uses the last of his power to transfer the fucking, like, SS ring to John.
Yeah.
And John uses his goodness to take the corruption from it.
Yeah, to basically force it to do his will.
Yeah.
And, like...
And he pulls the spirits of the Hooded Lanterns from the GL ring
into this ring,
and it morphs the ring into a lantern ring.
Yeah, they basically overpower the 12 spirits, but he says basically that it houses the spirits of the 12, the original 12 SS guys. Then it has Hal's spirit, Ollie's spirit, and all the Hooded Lanterns. So it's basically, there's enough in there, good in there, that it basically, he says, it balances out the ring so he doesn't hear the voices anymore. So what's really interesting is this ring, in essence, is actually more like the ring that Power Ring uses from the alternate universe Justice League.
Yeah, no,
because
absolutely.
It is one of those, like, it's good and it's bad, and it's like,
And I'm going to give a huge, massive amount of credit to the penciler on this book, Dean Zachary.
Yeah.
The splash page that he does when John takes the ring and the ring creates a costume for him. This is one of the coolest fucking Lantern costumes I've ever seen.
Oh yeah, that one is fucking awesome.
Oh my god, I wish that John had actually had this suit, like, as a continuity. It's so fucking cool.
Yeah, like, it's one of the one-time only most unique costumes ever and stuff, because it's like, I love that mask. I love how the mask came
It's one of those masks that's like full face goes down into the side the hair
like,
is open. Which I always love masks like that. And the way the lantern is, like, on his kind of breastplate, like on his side.
Yeah.
It reminds me of
is all the way like up to the elbow, and then has the white stripe and stuff.
The white stripes that they use and the black that they use in there. It really is a really well designed costume,
especially for the one-off. Like,
and basically, like John uses the power of the ring to basically kill the SS ring because like it transfers to fucking Guy's hand and it just is inert.
Yeah, and he tells Guy that basically he's like, you failed, your will failed, like you just didn't have it and shit.
Their strength of will is nothing, and basically John uses his ability to start to remake the world the right way.
Yeah.
It's an excellent book.
It's very interesting too because it shows the opposite side of the coin about like how, you know, even with like the absolute power kind of thing, the like an absolute evil can be fought off by a person's just, you know, like how was a good person, you know, like he may have not done good things, but at his core he was a good person and was like this, you know,
because the world that he lived in
was this way,
was this world. Like he knew nothing else. So like even at his core he was still a good person, but he was operating in a world that doesn't know good in the same way. Like he was born into the 7th or 8th generation of the rule of Nazis, basically.
Yeah, like he was as good as he could be in the world of Nazis.
Exactly.
You know, without being the resistance guy that John and Ollie were. And
exactly.
Shit. So
it's extremely well crafted story.
Yeah.
It's a really cool way of doing it. It's a really interesting take on like what if the world was different in this sort of way.
Like, would you be a good person in this world? Like,
even under the very worst circumstances, does strength of will still exist?
Yeah, like.
And of course, John, you know, ultimately ends up being the victor because his will is the strongest of all of them.
Yeah.
And that takes elements from John in the real continuity of comics. Like, John is a very powerful lantern because his will is very strong.
He is, yeah. Usually he doesn't... The problem with is, like, with Hal is Hal's had things that have happened in his life that have made him question certain things.
Right.
Guy has always had a more inflated sense of self-worth, ego kind of things, but there's also been shit that's gone on. Even Kyle, and much as I love Kyle always felt like, did he actually deserve this? Of all those people, John was the only one that pretty much was very confident in who he was and was like, yep, nope, this is who I am, this is what I do, and
this
shit
is
like
what
this.
Is right,
this is why I think a lot of people took to John so much is because, like, John never questioned his ability as a Green Lantern. He never questioned, oh, should I have this and shit. He was like, nope, this is who I am, this is what I do. He wasn't overinflated, like, I deserve this or something like that, but he's like, this is who I am and this is what I will do. Like, you know, he is very much like, cool, this is what I do.
Right, and that's why John is enduring as one of the best lanterns.
Yeah.
Like, as much as I love Hal, like you said, Hal has his fallacies and shit, and like Hal is the ideal of a great lantern.
Yeah.
And Guy is like the guy who wanted it so bad, but really has never been what he could have been if he could just fucking get over himself.
Pretty much.
And Kyle is the reluctant lantern. He's
Kyle
the one who,
is basically
like,
who embodies what it means to be a lantern if he had the confidence. If he didn't feel like he was just not, like, this was never meant for him kind of thing.
That's why, to me, Kyle works actually better in what they made him into.
Yeah.
Like when he became Ion, and then when he became kind of like the controller of all of the spectrum.
When he became the White Lantern.
Yeah,
and stuff
exactly.
like that, because like.
But John is, to me, the prototypical pure green.
Yeah.
And that is really cool.
And it's interesting too because he borders that line that Sinestro bordered for a very long time, which makes you wonder if just the wrong thing happens, could John become a bad guy like Sinestro?
The thing with Sinestro is like Anakin.
Yeah.
It's like
I think the other
should have been the best.
Yeah, I think the other problem with that though was you also had like the way they built Sinestro. The Guardians blew too much up his ass. Yeah, like that was the thing.
He was the chosen one. Like I said, he's the Anakin. He's the chosen one.
Yeah.
And you were supposed to be the best of us. That applies so much to fucking Sinestro.
And then like, Kyle is definitely the Luke.
Yeah, Kyle is the Luke and shit. But like when it comes down to it, John is just the proto example of like he is that good of a person.
He's the Qui-Gon.
Yeah,
or the Obi.
He's the Obi-Wan. He's the Qui-Gon. He's that guy who is the purest of the Force or whatever. God, this is like the most Star Wars shit I've ever referenced ever. But it works.
But I mean, in relations, like if you're going with that symbolism and stuff, yeah, it's very much like he is the best Green Lantern at being a Green Lantern there is, and stuff.
Absolutely,
because he is the most like true to form.
And I think like these two stories, we didn't really plan it this way.
Yeah,
but these two stories work so well as a tandem, like because
it shows you what like you put a certain level of power in somebody's hand. What are they going to do with it?
Right.
Like, what person do they really become?
Yeah,
and that's the thing is like, as much as you love Norrin Rad and stuff like that, when you put the gauntlet on his hand, you saw what he became. This is what happens when you put too much power in the hands of a mortal.
Yeah,
like. What when you achieve godhood in that sense, the thing is like your heart and your brain were never built to have that much power, so like they overcompensate. In the Green Lantern thing, it's like it's kind of the opposite. Like, even with this much power, can you still be the good person that you were? Some of them were, and some of them weren't.
Like, when there's no adversity and there's no consequence, can you still be the good person that you were?
Like, is at your core
and
still going to dictate
you can even draw
you are.
the similarities between Sinestro and Silver Surfer in that respect. Like, Sinestro is that example of, like, to his people, he is the hero, and he was a great hero and a great Lantern, but the shit creeped in, and the power became too much. And they told him how great he was or whatever, and it just kept like to the point where the arrogance took over.
Or like with Hal, with Parallax and stuff
the fear
like that.
Took over.
The fear and the corruption. There was something in there that started slowly corrupting the power, and that's what happened. It's like the same way with the Infinity Gauntlets and stuff. Like, the power started, you literally can make choices without any consequence, because even with whatever the consequences be, you could just change it to however you want.
And then you get like, Parallax with Hal.
And that's like, and that's
this with Silver Surfer.
Yeah, it's like, but then you're no longer the good guy fighting the good fight. You're now the tyrant, which even in the Gauntlet, or I mean in the Infinity Gauntlet one, Thanos says, he's like, you want to be a tyrant. Like, your machinations are worse than mine ever were. Like,
He's like, I had an agenda, but you just want to fucking eliminate everything.
Yeah, like, and you're, blinded will to make, everything happy go, like, yay place. You've basically decided to take away free will from everyone and stuff. And that's kind of the thing, is like, free will, yes, you get good and evil, but when you take away evil, you take away everybody's choice. Like,
absolutely.
You take away sad, nobody knows what happy is, and you take away evil, nobody knows what good is, because it's all, you have to have the dark and the light, and it's like, Yeah,
I give a hell of a lot of credit to the writer on the Lantern book, too. Let's see. Was it? David DeVries. Like, he really has a strong grasp of, like, the essence of the Lantern Corps and what the will of the Lantern means and all that shit.
I love the usage of Ollie in it, too, because, like, honestly, I thought, like, it would be interesting to see Ollie with a Green Lantern ring.
It is interesting, because he has that sort of heart and soul, but I don't think he's a green, though. Like, if you look at the spectrum, Ollie is not a green.
No, he's not, but it's like, I think in some, like, some aspects of it, sure, because he's got the will to enact what he wants to do and stuff, but, like, if you look at Ollie, especially in the comics and stuff, it's weird because, like, he has the compassion, but he also has the hope.
Yeah, I say, to me, Ollie is like a blue.
Yeah. I think
because he's always been Hal's kind of moral barometer in some respect, and like the guy who's like, all right, man, you got this ability, and let's keep it down here, though.
Yeah, that classic fucking cover of when he basically shoots Hal's fucking lantern battery and shit, because Hal was going fucking hard on it and shit, and he's like, dude, what the fuck are you doing and shit? Like, you're my friend.
He is the Jiminy Cricket, like,
Cricket. Yeah.
He is the Jiminy Cricket for fucking Hal. Like, it is that sort of thing. But both of these books actually turn out to be excellent. Yeah. And, like, if I have to pick one as a favorite, like, of course, I try to pick one as the more strong of the books. I would lean towards the Lantern book as being the stronger because it's a much more like realized universe story.
I think that I ultimately say the Green Lantern one because one, they fleshed out the story longer and like it was more realized and stuff. But I think if they had fleshed out this what if to the same length, I think it would be a dead heat. Because man, watching like what happens with like Norrin and the things that he goes and does and stuff, it's like, man, that's some interesting shit.
They come from different times in comics too. Like, you know, the 90s was a much more grittier sort of like be depthful of story, and like when this, you know, the time period the story is based in and when it was originally written, like it was a different world of comics. Things were a bit more simple, and
especially then because the what if stories were also very short. Like they weren't written super because it was just supposed to be a glimpse of what could. Hence the whole what if.
But Elseworlds is more like, here's a whole different fucking world.
Where an entire history, this what if is like, if this one thing was different.
Right, if this one decision was different.
Yeah.
And Elseworlds, yes, one decision was different, but it remade the entire fucking universe for generations.
It wanted to show you the scope. It basically took the idea of the what if and was like, cool, but what if we went further than just the one aspect of it? And it was like, okay, so we take your story, and then we run it so much further, and you see how the long distance consequences were.
And that's the big difference between What If books and Elseworlds books. Is like, What If books is like, in the main continuity, what if this one decision was different? In Elseworlds, it's like, here's these established characters in a completely different world.
Yeah. And that's the thing, is like, they're basically, you know, the mirror images of each other as far as like, here's this one universe where everything was the exact same except for one choice. And then the other one is like, where we take this one character, you know, and then we stick them in somewhere where everything's completely different.
And I think that's the strength of like the multiverse thing in DC, is because all these worlds exist.
Yeah.
Or they did before Crisis.
Yeah.
And whatever.
Yeah. Pre-crisis, post-crisis, all that stuff.
But
and
no, it's a very strong book. They're both very strong books, and I would recommend both of them heavily. Mm-hmm. But ultimately, because it's a deeper sort of story, the Green Lantern book is the winner on this one. Unfortunately for Marvel, DC has kicked your ass this time. Yeah, when it comes to it. But no shock there that I would probably prefer a DC book. But again, though, it's really like, I still think both of them are really strong. And oddly enough, it works well as a companion piece to the show that Ariel and I did last night. Yeah, because we covered the American Dreams books from Short Fuse, and they are also this sort of, you know, alternate history kind of world, and this book deals heavily with like racial themes and
racial
the Ubermensch shit, and American Dreams also deals with that, you know, struggle for equality and the struggle for racial equality and stuff,
and the power of one, struggle of the other.
It's really fucking interesting.
And like, what happens if you are given power enough to make a change in it and stuff? Do you make the change for the good, or do you make the change for like evil and stuff? It's very much like, you know,
absolutely.
That choice.
The last 2 days have been a great fucking comic reading exercise for me, because I've read some great books. Oh, yeah. But since we're at the looks like hour and 27 minutes sort of mark, I should probably wrap it up. Is it time for the shill?
Yep. Dance, Muggy.
So if you like what you heard tonight on the Basement Fodder podcast, you can of course find us at our network home of digitalnerdage.com. You can find our website, thebasementofdoom.wordpress.com, which I spent about 40 minutes updating last night, so it is completely up to date.
Oh shit!
Can you believe? It is completely up to date.
Dun dun dun.
You can find us on social media. I'm Todd Dave. He's Dave Basement of Doom, and you can find Ariel at Ariel Beach. On Instagram and Twitter, we're at Basement Fodder, and you can find us on basically anywhere you can listen to a podcast: Spotify, iHeartRadio, iTunes, our websites, any place you can download a podcast, you can pretty much find one of our shows. So. We're doing a lot of stuff like here lately. We were doing the show last night in honor of National Comic Book Day. Yeah. We reviewed seven books last night.
Yeah.
3 issues of American Dreams, 2 issues of Oathbound, and 2 standalone books from our buddy Russell Lissow, who did Old Wounds. Yeah. And of course, like I talked a lot last night about Old Wounds, and I'll go back into it just for a second. And I mentioned this, that like Old Wounds is one of those books that comes along once in a lifetime.
Yeah.
Because you and I have very disparate taste in comics. Like, we do agree on some things, and we do like some of the same things, but like to find a book that we both just embrace completely like that, Like, to the point where I hate PDF comics, and I know you don't care for them either, and we devoured the PDFs before we got the fucking printed versions.
Yeah, sitting there double-clicking the shit out of that fucking thing.
I still cannot recommend that book enough, and we were really honored to get to write the foreword for the trade paperback on that one. And you can get, I think Russell told me last night, there's only like 7 copies left of the trade that he's got, and they're only $10 on his website right now. So if you check out Russell Lissow on Facebook, you can find a link to his website, and you can pick up an amazing book for $10 fucking dollars. Which is absolutely worth it. I thought about ordering another fucking copy for myself.
I was like, I might order a second copy because that book is good.
And I would love, actually, considering how long ago we did it, I'd love to revisit it and talk about it again. Because I've just pulled it out recently. I've got it down there.
That'd be interesting.
I'd reread it and maybe talk about it again, because it's been, 6 years, I think, since we did our original series on that. But no, I would absolutely recommend it. Go out there and support your local indie folks, because those guys are having a hard time with no cons and shit. Like, these guys need to make money.
Them guys rough, man.
Support your local fucking comic book producer. But that's going to wrap it up for this week. We got a lot more to come, but we're happy to cap it at an hour and a half for tonight.
Yeah.
But,
I'm sure you guys are like, shut the fuck up, I got things to do.
As always, I'm Todd.
I'm Dave.
And until next time, the basement door is closed.
Later, bitches.